Dispatch feels like it harkens back to the early 2010s, a time when Telltale Games was creating incredible episodic adventure games inspired by graphic novels. Superhero stories were beginning to fill to the brim with quips to counterbalance the angst of the genre in the 2000s, and off-base TV comedies were everywhere. If not for snippets of gameplay, Dispatch would simply be a great TV show that I would want to tune into every week. It sometimes feels like it skews a little bit too much toward its TV show inspirations, but superb writing and voice acting maintains investment in this character-driven drama and makes for a story I want to replay.
Hey team, this is your dispatcher, Robert Robertson. I'm starting my first shift.
Tell me that's not your real father.
In Dispatch, you play as Robert Robertson III, aka Mecha Man. Once a prominent hero without superpowers who had to rely on piloting a mech suit to stop monstrous supervillains, Robert finds his life adrift after his suit is damaged beyond repair. He is offered a job as a dispatcher, someone who directs and assists a team of paid heroes. The catch? Robert's team is made of former supervillains. It's a stellar setup, made even stronger by an incredible cast of varied characters.
Hey, can I get your attention, please? I would like to get started.
Robert is a remarkably refreshing take for a protagonist in a superhero story. Yes, he is depressed and often uses humor to deflect, but he has an earnest desire to help people and continue being a force for good. He doesn't view the supervillains under his command as a hindrance, but a mission in mentorship. His words of encouragement are a strong motivation to take each assignment as seriously as possible, adding weight to both the story and the choices you make throughout it.
Got any more great advice?
Disappear!
The main gameplay loop of Dispatch sees Robert behind a computer screen, being alerted to crimes and calls for help across the city. It's up to you to carefully read each request, which are all worded to specifically point to what a person is asking for, and react accordingly. Each wannabe hero on Robert's roster has an array of scores split across 5 stats: combat, vigor, mobility, charisma, and intellect. Based on the language used for each crime, you have to decide which former villain would be the best option to send. The sword-wielding and portal-making half-demon Malevola is a bit of an all-arounder, for instance, while the winged assassin Coop has good combat, mobility, and intellect, but poor vigor and charisma. Rarely is a single hero the perfect choice for the job, and each mission carries with it a chance of failure that's left up to luck. You can close the margin for error by sending more than one hero on an assignment, though. The trade-off for over-preparation is time and resources. Every hero you send off takes them out of the rotation for a while. First traveling to the assignment, then doing it, then traveling back to base, and finally resting after the ordeal. You'll occasionally have a dozen or so missions per shift, with 2 to 4 popping at a time, and each only remains on the board for a short period before timing out. This encourages you to be quick and strategic with your choices. Front-loading too many of your early assignments with numerous heroes to avoid failure means everyone will be out of commission and resting when the second batch of missions rolls in, causing them to end in failure. But if you don't send enough heroes to begin with, you might fail anyway. On occasion, a hero might ask Robert to intervene and provide a more hands-on approach as well. This often boils down to making a judgment call on how a hero should proceed when a complication arises, and each option is phrased to hint at the skill needed to press ahead. Other times, however, Robert can use his experience as a tech-based hero to lend his hacking expertise and circumnavigate the problem. Hacking plays out as a minigame in which you guide a polyhedral through a maze of nodes. To proceed through each maze, sometimes you just need to reach the end. Other times, you'll have to input a pattern to unlock the way forward, bring a charge of electricity from one node to another, or maneuver around an antivirus that pursues you through the maze as a glowing red eye. As the game progresses, these hacking minigames grow more complex, and your margin for error increases with harsher time restrictions and limited attempts. The entire experience of dispatching heroes is an exciting challenge that grows more complex as the game goes on. However, as each member of the team completes assignments, they'll gain experience and level up, allowing you to upgrade any one of their 5 stats. Over time, you'll learn to recognize which buzzwords clue you into the best team member to dispatch. You'll train each hero to be better at handling calls, and you'll learn which heroes have synergy together in a way that increases their success percentage if partnered together. You'll also learn more about each member's unique skill set. Each person on the crew has a unique passive ability that you only learn of later in their career. As you succeed at calls, Robert gains experience too, letting him level up and unlock dispatcher perks like powerful coffee that can get a hero back into the available pool without resting, or medic training to heal characters who get wounded on the job and are suffering penalties to their success rate until their injury is addressed. Dispatch is structured in such a way that the learning curve for dispatching on a first playthrough perfectly matches with Robert's growing confidence and camaraderie with the team in the story, which creates a compelling illusion that it's your efforts to get to know the team that's directly impacting his level of solidarity with them over time. A lot of dispatch is carefully curated illusion, one that hides how powerless you really are to the impact of the story. Between shifts, you'll guide Robert through this new period of his life, meeting and interacting with coworkers, flirting with potential love interests, and striving to find a way to be Mecha Man again. Each branch in dialogue grants anywhere between 2 and 3 choices, and a timer encourages you to stay glued in order to make a quick decision that still takes into account the subtleties of each option. Dispatch makes one notable deviation from this long-used format, and it's made weaker for it. You cannot choose to have Robert stay silent. In similar titles, choosing to say nothing could impact the narrative. Silence is a particularly powerful narrative decision in games like The Walking Dead and Firewatch. In Dispatch, however, the game auto-picks one of the available options if you don't pick anything. This means you don't actually have to do anything outside of dispatching shifts. The game's story will just keep going.
I'm sure they could accommodate one more. Especially a special occasion like this.
Actually, I gotta get home to my dog. He's very needy.
The overall story further reinforces this feeling of Dispatch being more like an interactive TV show than a cinematic game. While there are choices that see you pushing major characters out of the story or pulling in new ones, these decisions don't have any dramatic ramifications. One of the biggest examples occurs early into Dispatch. Robert is told to cut the member of the team who's lowest on the leaderboard that details each hero's effectiveness. However, the decision of who to cut eventually comes down to 2 candidates. It doesn't matter how much you focus on those 2 characters to improve their performance ahead of the decision, fight back against the idea of cutting anyone, or purposely sabotage other characters during shifts to worsen their overall ranking. You must always cut one of those 2 characters.
All right. I'll get started on the paperwork.
On subsequent playthroughs, this highlights just how few narrative pathways Dispatch's story has. But even on your first playthrough, the signs that your choices are an illusion already begin to poke through. Although some decisions aren't totally devoid of consequence, the impact of them mean they might as well be. The game further reinforces this lack of player efficacy by making the choice for you if you just choose to put the controller down and let the timer run out on the decision. All of this doesn't ruin Dispatch per se. The writing in this game remains fantastic, but it does dampen the tension of each choice. You can play this choice-driven video game without making many choices and still watch a satisfying ending. To a certain extent, this lack of true responsiveness is made more frustrating because of Dispatch's phenomenal writing. Invisigal is proof that there could have been a bigger bite to the consequences of choices. Invisigal is struggling with being a hero the most, believing that having a superpower like invisibility means she's destined to be a supervillain. One of the first things Robert does is give Invisigal a pep talk that boils down to fate not being real. It is our choices, he claims, that define who we are.
We think we're the main character of life. We're not.
We're a bunch of flesh blobs with depression on a floating rock.
Ignoring the hilarious irony and the juxtaposition of this speech's theme and the overall structure of the game, fate serves as the main through line of Robert and Invisigal's relationship. Robert becomes the de facto mentor of Invisigail, and your choices involving her do have one ramification on Dispatch's conclusion. If Dispatch didn't wrap up right after, this impact would be quite substantial. As is, it makes for an interesting factor if developer AdHoc decides to make a sequel one day. Robert and Invisigail have a fun back-and-forth dynamic, brought to life by expressive animations and superb performances by Breaking Bad's Aaron Paul, voice of Robert, and Critical Role's Laura Bailey, voice of Invisigail. While the rest of the team doesn't get the same treatment as Invisigail, they're all enjoyable to interact with, regardless of if you choose to make choices or not. While the lack of branches in the narrative keeps most choices from feeling substantial enough to warrant careful consideration, the arc of Invisigail's potential redemption, incredible writing, and stellar voice acting makes this one of the best superhero dramas I've watched. Plus, the act of dispatching heroes and growing as a leader is a fun interlude between all the choice making, especially when you can see your improvement reflected in Robert's growth throughout the story. I have my qualms with parts of it, but Dispatch is more than worthy of getting a second season. The writing and world building behind its story is too good for this to be a one-and-done entry.